From the ONF studios, I'm Robert Neal, and we continue our conversation with Ginger Gilmour about her book Memoirs of the Bright Side of the Moon. In this final segment, we'll hear about her son Matthew and the launch of his musical career, as well as Ginger's career as an artist. But I started off by asking her whether she had been hesitant in telling stories about the Floyd, or if she was worried about what David or Roger Waters might think of the book.
Well, because it's about the bright side, I chose to only choose, well, I didn't consciously always choose. This energy was in me to write. And the stories of beauty, or the transformation of hardship, crises into beauty and into love and forgiveness, and to see that forgiveness is the part of life that really, I was given an amazing chance writing this book to find forgiveness, and there's no blame, there's just, the book is about how great every one of us is. And it's the archetypal journey that we all go through.
Have you gotten feedback from David?
No, not yet, because it's my story. And it's my experience of life. He's, all of that is only the first part of the book in a way. It's all about the rest that I learned and what I've experienced in my life about the importance of art and what they actually did. And it's historical for anyone that has experienced that era of rock and roll.
Yeah.
I've sent him a book. I think he's very busy. It's a big book. It's 654 pages.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. You were quite prolific with this.
Yes.
This is really very long. When you started out, did you have a goal of it should be this many words or whatever, or did you just let loose?
I just let it flow until it was finished. It's become the War and Peace of rock and roll.
In reading the description of the book, it's packaged in kind of a unique way. Can you describe it for us?
Well, first off, because I was a color therapist, it was really important. I had, my team did question me about putting the color pink for the cover of the book to begin with. It has proved totally the right decision. It's hardback. It has gold leaf. There's a circle with a picture of me smiling at my age of 65, showing that at 65 you can look really happy.
I think so.
Yes. And you open it and there's a melon color paper on the front and inside and the back. And there's a hologram of a security seal that every book has its own number. So that eventually in the future it's like a limited edition of a piece of art. There is a clear plastic lightweight envelope that will come with it so that you can protect it, because I know collectors like to, have those things.
Yeah.
On top of which there are 4 photographs in the back, cards, one of me signed, and 3 of 2 are from some of the images in the book, and the 4th one is about my son, Matthew Gilmour, who just did his first album.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about his first album. How would you describe it? Are you the proud mother of a new rock star?
Yeah. This young man, I have to say, he has taught me so much about the masculine without even realizing it. That we had 3 girls first, and they're wonderful and they're very creative, very special beings. And Matthew was very silent all the time, and I didn't realize how much he was absolutely observing. It wasn't until he was about 14, and he was in this one boarding school, and everyone was playing guitar, and he's like, I want to play the guitar, and he just started playing, and it's grown and grown and grown, and at one point, he just didn't know what to do with his life, and he went and worked in a pub for a couple of years, and that was disastrous. His mom didn't like that. But not that the pub was the problem. It's just the energy of it and the drinking and stuff just isn't really good. And then he played me this one song, Rain, that he had composed. And I sent it to Isaac, the person that has helped me with my book and all kinds of things. And he, having been in rock and roll, sent it to Danny Johnson of Steppenwolf, who, because Steppenwolf isn't gigging as much, has taken to producing young artists. And he said, I think this is amazing. I want to produce this artist. Does he want to do it? And he was incredible. I will be grateful to that man forever, because he took Matthew under his wing on his ranch just outside of Austin, Texas, for 6 to 8 months. And he just lifted his self-confidence. And what happened with the music that came out in that environment, and it's just broke him open, and it's like a flower. Just, he's going from step to step and greater. So he really believes that his dream's coming true. I mean, he's doing it on his own with help from me. And Danny certainly did his part, and Isaac is doing his part to help him. And now he's got a band called Patient Wolf, who are interpreting the songs, and they will go on. Their gestalt is building, and I think there's great potential there. Yeah. And the album is The Gray, and you can get it on MatthewGilmore.com.
Here's a little bit of the song C'est la vie from Matthew Gilmour.
To that, I have so much tears of pride that my son has gotten to that point.
You definitely are a proud mother.
Yeah. Well, if you see a person, particularly someone so close, and you had the pregnancy, gave birth, went through all the changes that we went through, I know that I'm being reborn. And to see him being reborn, it just, I'm just so happy for her.
In learning about Ginger Gilmour, you realize how important art and beauty are to her. And she says her journey as an artist began a number of years ago. And it was a transcending journey that went beyond the empirical world. She had been studying meditation and other practices with the Sufi master Irina Tweedy, who wrote the book Chasm of Fire. And Tweedy recommended that Ginger study art with acclaimed British artist Cecil Collins.
And I was with him for about 15 years. Learning how to open to what God wants you as an artist to give birth to. So that started to open up what I was doing. And it first took hold as a painter because he taught about the different aspects of how you capture the invisible part of what we are. Because we're not just this physical body. You know, we have emotions, we have thoughts, and we have our soul, and we've got the God, spirit realm, the Holy Ghost coming into us. So that's quite a training to develop that part where I don't go in the studio and say, right, I'm going to do an angel today, or I'm going to do a woman today, or I'm going to do a baby today. That's not the case. They teach you to wait and wait and wait until some special impulse, an image can come. And even then, when the image comes, I still have to wait and wait and not try to use my mind so that really what's there is something of the beauty of life, the sacredness of life, because we need new images. We need images of beauty so that we don't forget that life can be beautiful.
So your art is an expression of your spirituality and your understanding that beauty comes in many forms and is important.
Very. But most of all, I sort of have a problem with that word spirituality these days because it's not about something separate to who you are. It's about being human. And all those other realms are part of us, and we cut them off. And that starts us on the process of dying and being very unhappy.
When did this awakening start coming to you?
Well, believe it or not, in between two tours, and when was that? Alice was 1, so that means it was 78. Can't remember which tour it was specifically. I'd have to look it up. David and I decided to go to Hawaii. And when we got there, we used to sit down to a 2-pound leg of lamb between us, lots of meat, and a bottle of wine and all that. But when we got to Hawaii, something there, the aloha spirit seemed to come into us. And I certainly stopped taking any drugs, that just life-enhancing things. They were nothing great, but we stopped smoking marijuana and things, and we still drank some wine, but I certainly became a vegetarian while we were there. We were there for 3 weeks. And then the little kids' parties underneath the little trees in the jungle with the flowers and the smell of plumeria and oleander, and the children were so radiant. Alice was 1, and they little white dresses and bare feet, just so happy. And David and I almost bought a property there, and we almost didn't come back, but we had the tour, so we had to come back. But it touched us so deeply, and when we got back, something happened that I woke up paralyzed from the waist down. and I couldn't move, and I was in such pain. And one of the wives of the second guitarist talked to us about this homeopath, this naturalistic Indian doctor that had saved her. That I was saying, David, we've got to find this Dr. Sharma. I don't know how do we do that? So he said about it, and we got an appointment. And he said what had happened is that I detoxed. My kidneys and liver were having a real problem. He says, you don't stop taking drugs and eating meat and doing all that overnight and not expect a kickback, because you're kicking all kinds of stuff out. So he put me in his naturopathic hospital for a few weeks on just chamomile tea and grapefruit. It was quite an experience. And in there, I discovered meditation, because that's what from India most people do. Most of the staff did that. He had a little chapel, and I would go in there. I had to be really quiet. It rained almost all the time, and the little sparkles of the raindrops would hit the window, and I had to be quiet for a very long time, and it really benefited me, and it changed. It was a spiritual signpost, they call it, that started to change and awaken me, and I've had several of those in my life. You get used to them after a while.
You had mentioned Werner Engel from the Jungian Society.
Yeah.
When did you meet him first?
Mrs. Tweedy had written her next book, and he was to do the foreword. And so she knew I was going to New York City with the Floyd, and she said, would I take the book to Dr. Werner Engel, who's the president of the Jungian Society in New York City. In fact, I think it's for the state. And I said, oh, sure, I'll do that. So I called him up and said, I have the manuscript from Mrs. Tweedy for you to read so that you could do the foreword. And he says, fine. Can you come to see me tomorrow? So I said, okay. And I got there, rock and roll wife, and I managed to get up and get to him. I can't remember, it was early morning. And I'm sitting he had a flat near to where John Lennon had a flat and had died.
Oh, the Dakota?
Yeah. So it was that type of flat. When he came and let me in, he had a monocle, and he was in his 80s. And at one point he said, Ginger, do you think it's possible I could get to see a rock and roll concert?
Really?
Yeah. And he says, I really, really want to know how that music affects the psyche of the young. And he said, and even the old. So, and I said, well, Dr. Engel, I think that's possible. So I arranged the limo to pick him up, and we were at Madison Square Garden, I think it was. And we got him in there, and I said, would you, he was interested in everything, because by then the Floyd had Star Trek Enterprise for a mixing console and lighting and sound and just everything. So he was really fascinated in that tour. I had a lot of very different people than Hollywood stars coming to see the gigs.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, would you like some earplugs? And he said, oh, no, I want the whole experience. So that's when he said backstage how, Ginger, I don't know if you would agree with me, but what we attained in meditation, your husband and his group create by transforming chaos into beauty. And that's that beauty again. When everyone comes together and is unified, it's like we're one in that space, and it's love, and beauty is the bridge for me.
And that concludes our conversation with Ginger Gilmour. You can learn more about her, as well as read other stories about Pink Floyd, in the new book Memoirs of the Bright Side of the Moon, which is available at angelscript.com. And to find Matthew Gilmour's album The Gray, you can go to matthewgilmore.com. From the ONF studios, I'm Robert Neal.